All right, good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about CMAs. I put this topic together partially for my mom sitting right beside me. She brought this up, and then I had a couple other people, I was chatting with about CMAs and how you do that and what's the best way of going about it. Obviously, there's more than one way to skin a cat, so to say, and there's more than one way to do a CMA. I'm not saying that mine's, the absolute end all way, but I figured I would start off by showing you what I do within Bright, and then we can have a open discussion as to what other people do and kind of form some best practices out of it. Additionally, maybe, a few things I touch on here in Bright are some cool little features here and there that you may not have known about. With that being the case, I'm going to start it off here and share my screen, and we'll go from there. Bear with me here. I'm also trying to add some of these other people coming in. Minimize a few things. Okay, so you guys should be able to see my Bright screen at this point.
Got it.
All right, so the first step to me is obviously pulling the tax records of whatever property that you are going to be, doing a CMA on. With that being the case, you're going to start within the search button of the Bright MLS system, and then you're going to go to public records. For this example, I'm going to use one of the properties that I just recently did a CMA on. It's 426 Trudy Road in Harrisburg. So you type that into the address bar, come over to the results. I identify that this is in fact the seller that I'm looking for in the property address, and I click the tax record to get some more information. If you're in a pinch or you're on the phone with somebody and you want to get some quick comparables, I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but you can actually go to a quick comparables report right from the tax record. Now, this gives you some automated comparable properties that sold recently. Take them with a grain of salt. They're probably as, accurate as, any Zillow Zestimate out there. So obviously you're going to want to look through the tax records and, to me, find the defining qualities of the property. Is it a vacant piece of land? Is it a residential house? Is it a farm? Is it a multifamily? Look at those first. What's the square footage? Where is it located? How many bedrooms, bathrooms, acreage, etc. Those sort of things are going to help you form a really good CMA and get you good results for comparable properties. So in this instance, it is in a small little subdivision, not a big enough subdivision that we're going to be able to pull great comps from. So we're going to have to go outside of the specific development. The other defining qualities to me are the lot size is a big one. It's more than just a postage stamp lot, has a little over a half acre. And then also 4,000 square feet above grade, as well as 4,000 square feet below grade. This is a huge brick ranch in Central Dauphin School District. So obviously CD schools, ranch house, brick, 4,000 square feet are, to me, the defining qualities that you're going to form this CMA off of. Once you have those defined, typically what I like to do is keep this open. Now, at the office here, I have multiple screens. So if you have that and you're working on a computer, I would slide this over to one screen. But if you right click on your tab in any web browser that you're using, you can form these options and you're going to duplicate. So that will leave this tab as the tax records. And then the new one, you can come over here back to your search tab and start, being that it's a residential property, we're going to go to residential sale. Using our defining qualities that you come up with via the tax records, we're going to type in Central Dauphin. Add that. I'm going to add a price range that I think, you know, we're going to find comps between. Obviously, anytime you're doing these, you want to start broad and then narrow it in from there. We have a lot of square footage. So I'm going to add that in as a criteria. We've got 19 results. I'm going to add closed, style of house, rancher. So now we only have one. I usually like to start the close date as 6 months. Obviously in this market, the further you go back, the less reliable, in my opinion, it's going to be, because the market, as you guys know, is changing very quickly right now. So since we only have one result, we might need to expand our scope and dial back. So we got 5 results. This should be good just for this example that we're working with. I first want to show you guys the map tab. So this gives you an idea of where those properties are at. A cool thing about the map tab too is that you can add in, you know, any specific requirements that you see fit on this tab. So you can create polygon shape and you do a specific neighborhood if you so choose. That's great if you have, you know, like a property you're trying to sell in Walden and you want to limit it, you know, to that development. If you want to delete the shape, you come over to that red dot and you're back to square one. So let's say that we like the results here. We're going over to the results tab. You skim through the properties. These are all the ones that you like so far. So I'm going to select all these properties. And what I like to do is I create a cart for these properties. You come to the cart tab, you create a new cart, and then you add them to it. So what this does is you add these properties to a cart, and then from your client's home screen, you can access these carts. I like to do this because sometimes you don't have the time to get it all done in one sitting, or maybe you want to go back or wait a couple weeks until something settles to add that back in. The cart tab just holds those properties in the cart till you need them. So it's actually very useful in my opinion. I use it a lot, as you can see here. I'm going to pull open the one I already had set up for her. And I'm going to click all. And then I do a couple things with these. I email these to myself, the link to the listing, because when I send over the CMA, I like to have that link in there as well, because the CMA you put together doesn't have all the listing photos. And as you guys know, that, you know, can go a long way to describing the condition and the types of properties that you're comparing. So I clicked into the CMA tool within Bright. There are a lot of different options that you have within here. If you haven't played around with it, you can add tons of different pages. I like to keep mine short and simple, sweet and to the point. So I use the cover sheet with a border and then the pro report. That's the only two selections that I make within my Bright CMA. I come over, you can actually take the tax record that you found on your other tab and you can copy and paste this right into that, and it'll pull up the property information for you. Which is nice. And then it autofills all that information. You're going to want to put the contact information in for the person you're doing the CMA for. And then you select the comparable properties that you would like. And then you come over here to finish. And you can view it. I simply view it, skim through, make sure it's all right once it loads. And then I download it to my computer as a PDF. So once I have it totally finalized, I take it over and from my email, this is what an example email looks like that I drafted and put together for my seller. Like I was telling you guys, I love to put the link to the properties in there. That way the homeowner can come in here, click on the different properties, see what they look like, get all the information, and then compare it to their own property. Additionally, I attach both the CMA and their property tax record for their reference. And typically that works pretty well. I've had great luck with that. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and kind of open it up for an open discussion and see if you guys have any questions or comments. Is that what everyone else typically does within Brights? Is there any thing in there that you guys didn't know about, like the quick comparable properties?
Brooks, I didn't know about the comparable within the tax records.
Yeah.
So where was that tab again within? You obviously click the tax record link, and then within there, is it just at the top?
Yeah, let me share my screen again here. So if you go to the tax record, it's right at the top.
Oh, okay.
So this is great if you're having a conversation on the phone with a past client, and you pull up their tax record real quick and you look to see if there's anything down the street or in the neighborhood that sold quickly, and you can have that conversation on the spot. Now, do take in mind that this is like using a algorithm to come up with these results. So again, they're not the most accurate. So we always encourage, obviously, to do your own due diligence and pull your own comps for your CMAs. Is there anyone these days using RPR? I know that's a tool that a lot of people used in the past for CMAs. Is there anybody out there on this call doing that?
Hey Brooks, it's
Yes.
Sid. We don't actually use the RPR. We do go to it if we're shy of comps, just to make sure it doesn't see something that, Bright isn't seeing.
That you're
So
missing?
you sometimes go there and use some of those comps as well and just incorporate them in the Bright CMA.
Awesome. Awesome. Kong, have you ever used RPR in their reports?
I have not, Brooks. I've learned how to do CMAs from your uncle, and we keep it real simple, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why,
Sometimes,
like,
yeah,
like I was saying on mine, I only use those 2 pages.
right. It just depends. And before you even do a CMA, the best thing to do is the pre-qual. You pre-qual the client, ask them what they think their house is worth, what they want. And of course, a lot of times they'll say, well, that's why we're hiring you, to figure it out. But every client has a price in mind. Okay. So you have to be creative and find a way to get that price out of that client. Whether you throw something ridiculous, like if I got you $500,000 in this house, in 30 days. Are you okay with that? And they'll say,
Kong, we're having trouble hearing you. Stacy, what are you guys using? Are you guys using the Bright system to pull your CMAs?
We are, I do not use the true CMA. I know you said you use like the 2 pages. I don't really do an like official CMA for my people because the majority of the time it's all too much information for them anyway. They just want to be able to say what are the, like, you know, top 8 homes that have sold in or around me, and what do you think my house is going to sell for, type of a thing. So
Sure.
I do use RPR just to like see what number they think that it's at. But I don't use that as like Bible. Like, it's just more of like curiosity. If I'm with a client and they happen to ask me a question and I'm not in front of my system, I'll pull up RPR on my phone just to kind of see where things are in the area. But I usually print out a series of comps. I end up going to the appointment and I have already written down on my paper what I think the house is going to be worth, based on whatever it is I see. And I ask them before I show them my paper. And usually when I say, listen, I already have an idea, it's on my paper, I'm going to show it to you, but I want to know what your idea is, and we're going to show each other together. And that gives me an idea of if they're like totally off kilter, or if I need to figure out a way to bring them down to reality.
Sure.
So
That's a creative way. I like that, to do what Kong was saying. You know, everybody does have a price in their mind as to what they think it's going to sell for. And you use your comps and your paperwork to kind of lead them to what they think's appropriate as far as a sales price goes. And I agree with you too, that some of those reports do get way too complex and kind of overload the clients with information. I'm gonna share my screen real quick again and show you what my report looks like. Let me. So I just like to give them glossary information about the property. So it gives you details about the property and then averages, which is nice. It gives a breakdown of price, closed price sold, and price per square foot, which I think is helpful in having the conversations that you're talking about, where you compare the comps that you lay out and then ask them what they feel their home's worth based on the information that you're showing them. So that's definitely cool. Uncle Tim, anything you want to add to performing a CMA? And I know it's a little different than what you did previously. Things changed when we went to Bright a little bit. So
Yeah, I like to keep it as simple as possible, 2-3 comps, you know, just to kind of show them what it is. You know, there's a lot of people that'll print booklets for their CMA. If you have a highly analytical person, they might read that. For me, I like, again, to print out those comps that you came up with out of the multi-list, highlight the things that are important to show the people, and sit down and go over it with them. It doesn't hurt to put it on a chart, you know, where you have the subject property and then the other properties, and that's all part of the Mike Ferry script. But like Kong said, keep it simple. That's what we've always tried to do.
yeah, absolutely. Anybody else have any questions about the Bright CMAs or anything else we discussed here? Jim?
Just a quick question, Brooks, just to repeat a little bit. So you selected them, you created a cart, And then from there, once you've added the properties to the cart, then you go to the CMA tool, right?
Yes, I mean,
Okay.
when you do the initial search, you could go to the CMA tool right away. But the reason, again, I like to use the cart is it's like a placeholder that indefinitely holds, the properties that you found. And if you're doing it before an appointment and then you have to leave, you can always come back and start a new search and add more properties to that cart and remove properties for that matter as well. So it's a helpful tool as you're doing CMAs.
It looks very professional. Is there any way you could share a copy of the email you send out, just as an example?
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely send you guys what I wrote up and sent out. Obviously, it's nice to sit down face to face and do the conversations that my uncle and Stacy are talking about. That's always the preferred method. In instances where you can't have that sit down meeting with them, I'll share with you that email I put together, and that's kind of the digital format that I've been using. All righty, guys. Well, that's all I had together for everybody today. Unless anybody else has any questions, we'll kind of wrap it up.
Brooksy, I would just like to mention that, within the qualifying script, it says there, you said you would like to list your home at X. And as a professional real estate agent, I study homes and prices every day. And then you ask them, so what's the price you won't go below? That to me is very important in how you're going to determine, and that's way ahead of time. That's before you go out with them. For you to have some ballpark idea, it's reverse of what Stacy's doing, but in reality, it's the same thing up front, so that you really know. So it's very important that you use that technique before you go out. What you have on the screen is tremendous. Again, I would keep it very simple down to 3. You get a whole lot more than that, you confuse them. That absolutely you don't want to do, but the technique before you get there, you have an idea of what they want to do if you use that dialogue in your own words, however you want to do it. But I think it's important that we use that qualifying script.
Absolutely. Those conversations to me are becoming more and more important with the market changes that we're kind of going through. I think we're getting to a point where sellers have become almost greedy enough that before, maybe 6-9 months ago, they would throw out any given number that they thought was high and wanted to test the market with. And it worked just because the market was expanding so fast and growing so fast that it was keeping up with those high prices. But now I think we're kind of flirting with a stabilization or a slowing a little bit, and sellers are starting to throw out higher numbers that aren't necessarily going to work. And you definitely don't want a property sitting on the market in this market, because everyone starts to beg the question, what's wrong with it? If it's on more than 2 weeks. So like you said, these conversations and the pre-qualification is super important.
Good question.
All righty, guys, we'll wrap.
Poppy, I agree with you. And just so you know, when I do my comps and CMAs, I happen to have one on my desk because I have to present it tomorrow. But my comps are 3, and right up at the top, I write a high end and a low end.
Good
And I
for you.
basically say, we got to be somewhere in this range. So
Actually,
definitely-
I'm glad you brought that up, because sometimes giving a range is better, especially in the kind of market that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we might get back to being experts again, but right now the range it's a range, you know, so that, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Whatever buyer's willing to pay for the limited amount of the housing that's out there. All right, guys, good session. This is important stuff.
All right,
All
thank
righty,
you
guys.
both. Good job.
Yep,
Yep,
good
no
job, Brooks.
problem. I'll push out another topic later here this week for next week, and we'll go from there.